AM News with me, Kemini Nyamani Amano. Coming up, government's policy on absentee teachers working as percentage of truancy drops. And May 25 is AU Day and recent developments on the continent. The question we are asking is, how important, what's been the impact of African Union on the continent? Let's get into the first story of the day. The Ghana Health Service would start an emergency call center to assist pregnant women in dire need of assistance during labor. Greater Accra Regional Director of the service, Dr. Linda Van Otu, tells Joy News the initiative is part of efforts to help reduce long hours in labor spent to get access to hospitals.
One of the major causes of maternal mortality is the lack of specialist healthcare centers to cater for women when there are complications during labor. Greater Accra Regional Director of the service, Dr. Linda Van Otu, told Joy News on the sidelines of a meeting with anesthetics working in the Greater Accra region that the service is putting in place new innovations to protect pregnant women.
The call center is a place where we'll have people on duty to receive calls, one from our own facilities and then from all other facilities who will need the services of specialists and who would need to know where beds are available, so that clients who are being referred from facilities will go directly to places that will have beds to receive them. This is key because we have had instances where pregnant women have been moved from facility to facility to facility because there's no bed to take them.
The Greater Accra region posted the worst maternal health record in 2013, recording the most deaths. But Dr. Van Otu says if support is secured for this project, there would be a change.
Look at the way they've been working and see what needs to be changed or what needs to be modified so that they give off their best. Another thing that is going to change is the network that we have amongst us as healthcare workers and then amongst the various facilities. Even in the same facility, there's a need to improve upon the communication in the various units.
The meeting is the third in a series of planned meetings between the Regional Health Directorate and health workers in the region on ways of changing the trend.
Well, government's policy of zero tolerance for absentee teachers is making inroads as the percentage of truancy at schools has dropped significantly. According to the Minister of Education, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, latest report by the Inspectorate Board of the Ghana Education Service indicates that teacher absenteeism dropped from 27% to 12% since the policy was implemented in the 2013-2014 academic year. Now, government last year declared it will no longer tolerate teachers who refuse to go to the classrooms but continue to draw their salaries. Government also introduced the school reporting card system as one of the measures to ensure effective supervision. She, however, maintained that the policy is not targeted at teachers but at absentee teachers and implored all teachers to join the GES efforts in improving education in the country. Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman was addressing a deba to mark 60th anniversary celebration of St. John's Grammar School. So May 25 is African Liberation Day. It is an annual holiday in various countries in Africa, coinciding with the African Union's Africa Day. It's a day that symbolizes the determination of the peoples of Africa to free themselves from foreign domination and exploitation. But could this year's celebration be receiving little attention? Joy News' Prince Minka has been finding out.
This year's African Union Day comes at a time developments on the continent have got many wondering what's driving it to the next stage. Nigeria's sudden economic transformation, which is threatened by growing security threats from extremist Boko Haram through to the conflict in South Sudan and again terrorist striking in Kenya, are but few immediate challenges leaders on the continent need to deal with. The question is, has the African Union's assistance been able to answer the age-long question of whether they've lived up to expectations? Take, for instance, the abduction of nearly 300 schoolgirls by Boko Haram in Nigeria. Little was heard about the Union when the mothers of these girls, both home and abroad, screamed for help. The African Union probably might have waited for another gift, not from China, but the USA, until some proactiveness was seen in the rescue process of these abducted schoolgirls. It is 2014, a year after the AU celebrated its 50th anniversary, and one would have thought its 51st anniversary would be a big deal, but on the contrary, little is known about it on the AU official website, and several attempts to find the theme via Google search, well, proved futile. So what is the strength of the African Union in tackling some of the major happenings on the continent at this particular moment?
It is important that we understand the way our intergovernmental organizations work, both the African Union and the Economic Community of West African States. There is always this tension between national sovereignty and also the issue of collective responsibility. And it becomes even more difficult because Nigeria is hosting ECOWAS. Nigeria is also a big player within the African continent. Nigeria is one of the so-called Big Five within the African continent. So if you look at the African peace and security architecture, one of the pillars is the African Standby Force. In this instance, it is the African Standby Force that would have come in to assist Nigeria. But the question then is, how many countries have supplied personnel to the African Standby Force? In which case, even if there are personnel, even whether it is the ECOWAS Standby Force or the African Union Standby Force, you will still see that majority of them should be Nigerian Army. So in that case, the national pride of so what becomes the question. And then the intergovernmental organizations cannot, under their protocols, intervene except on the invitation of Nigeria.
For now, we will continue to search for current information about the African Union Day from other sources and let you into what the African Union will do in redefining its position in the world. For Joy News, Prince Emeka.
President John Dramani Mahama has described PV Obeng as more of a brother than an advisor. The president has been visiting the family of the late chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, where he could not hide his sorrow. President John Mahama tells Joy News at Atani say he remains shocked at the sudden death of his senior presidential advisor.
It was a solemn atmosphere at the Tema residence of late Paul Victor Obeng, a senior presidential advisor at the presidency. Family, friends, sympathizers and party faithfuls had gathered to mourn with the bereaved family. President John Dramani Mahama and his wife, Medina Mahama, with his entourage, were not left out. The president, in a rather pensive mood, described late Paul Victor Obeng as a brother.
On behalf of the government and people of Ghana, I wish to extend our sincerest condolences to the widow, the children, and family of our late beloved senior presidential advisor, Mr. PV Obeng. We all called him PV for short. And this loss is not only the loss of the family, but is the loss of the government, is the loss of the NDC party, is the loss of the entire people of Ghana. PV spanned such knowledge and experience that I cannot stand here to describe what we have lost. And we had been together at the National Economic Forum. He was one of the moving spirits behind the forum, very busy, very active in the forum. Nobody expected that after such a successful forum, we would hear this kind of bad news. A lot of the time when things like this happen, you are tempted to ask God why, but I guess he knows best.
He later signed the Book of Condolence, where he paid his condolences to the bereaved family. It will be recalled that at the just-ended 3-day economic forum at Senchi, Mr. PV Obeng was part of the participants who played a key role during the discussions. President Mahama, in his closing address at the forum last Thursday, acknowledged his contributions. PV Obeng was a mechanical engineer, politician and chairman of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology Council.